Informed Health, and I wanted to talk to you today about stress. So, you know how we hear about the association between stress and health problems? You know how we hear about stress and particularly cardiovascular disease, like sort of heart attacks and things like that. So we know there's a real connection between those two things. Well, what if I told you that there's things you can do that you can embrace, strategies you can embrace to reduce that risk? Well, there are. So one of the strategies is understanding the stress response and actually the way you perceive or the way you think about the stress response. So if we think about the stress response, think about the fact that when you start to feel stressed, or it could be you might relate it to anxiety, but you start to get kind of, the heart beating faster, sort of shallow breathing, and you might get that feeling, that pit in the pit of your stomach, whatever it is for you, but you start to feel, and so you're nervous. It's, often we'll be having it, you're about to go on stage and talk, or you're about to go into a job interview, or something that's making you feel a bit nervous or a bit excited, or whatever it is, right? So we are familiar with what the stress response kind of feels like. And what we often do, though, is because many of us have had anxiety, or we associate stress with challenging things like, like job interviews or whatever it is, we often associate the stress response like we feel like it's a negative thing. So, I'm having this negative experience. And what researchers have found is, in fact, when you reframe it as a positive experience, it makes all the difference emotionally and physically. I'm just going to pop over and read this for you just so that I make sure I get it right, just to explain this to you. So, like I said, we often associate it as a negative thing. We sort of start getting a stress response. We think it's a bad thing. In fact, it is your body getting energized and preparing for a challenge. And if you see it that way, you go, it's cool, my body's doing this great thing to get me ready for a challenge. Isn't that great? My body's looking after me. So if we see it as your body doing something to look after you and something to prepare you and help you, it can make a difference in the way that it affects you. So what they found is they told this to participants who were in a study at Harvard University. And before they went through a social stress test, they were actually taught to reframe their stress response as helpful. That the pounding heart was preparing you for action, and you're breathing faster is because you're getting more oxygen to your lungs. So basically your body's preparing you for this challenge, and that's a good thing, right? So that's what they were told to think about it. And what they found is the participants who learned to view stress as helpful and not harmful, and they saw it as helpful for their performance, they were actually less stressed, less anxious and more confident. So less stress, less anxious and more confident. But one of the most interesting things is because they thought it would just affect their emotional state. So yes, it reduced the stress, reduced the anxiety, made them more confident, and they thought, okay, it would stop there. It did not stop there though. What they found was really, really interesting is when we do have a stress response, there's lots of parts to it, but I'll just explain this one part to it. When we have a stress response, our blood vessels can constrict, so they kind of close somewhat, or like narrow is probably the right word, which is one of the cardiovascular links. Geez, I'm having trouble with words today. One of the cardiovascular links, right, is basically that narrowing of blood vessels. So that's sort of reducing blood flow to different parts of the body. So that is one of the cardiovascular links, and that is what happens. Well, usually when you have a stress response, one of the things that happens is that narrowing of the blood vessels, right? What they found in these people who were told to see it as a beneficial thing, that the stress response was helping them, it's helping them achieve something challenging, well, they did not get the narrowing of the blood vessels. So essentially, they weren't getting that negative cardiovascular effect. So the people who actually believed that their stress response was your body helping you to prepare for a challenge, they had less anxiety, less stress, more confidence, and they didn't have the cardiovascular risk, the heart attack type risk that goes with a stress response in a normal situation. So isn't that cool? I just thought that was really cool. There's lots of other studies too, and these are the kinds of things in our Stress Less program that we share with our clients. There's lots and lots of studies and lots of information and lots of just really practical tools and tips of how to manage stress so it reduces its chance of affecting you physically and emotionally, and so that you can have lots of energy and feel in control and get on with your life and feel so much better overall, just sort of the energy and that clarity and all those things that we do want in life. And that's what we will help you with in our Stress Less program, or in one-to-one consultations. We can help you with your stress as well. I just thought that was a really cool fact and really important to know. The way you perceive your stress and the way you think about it, and the way you think about a stress response makes all the difference, whether that stress response actually helps you physically and emotionally, or whether that stress response cripples you or causes potential cardiovascular issues. So I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to share that with you. And join our Stress Less program that starts on the 20th of, when does it start? The 20th of June. Okay, thank you. Talk to you again soon. Bye.